Welcome to Library Out Loud, a conversation about any and all things related to the Spokane County Library District. Library Out Loud is brought to you by the Spokane County Library District and our friends at STCU. Now, here's your host, Jane Baker.
Hello and welcome to Library Out Loud. I'm Jane Baker with the Spokane County Library District. We're going to spend the next 30 minutes talking about some things happening at the library. And the thing we're talking about today is business workshops. Yes, business workshops at the library. I have two guests with me today. First is Rob Kennedy. Rob, thank you. You've been on the program before, and thank you for coming back and talking business stuff with us today. And also Stacey Goddard. Stacey is a Public Services Manager with the County Library District. Thank you for coming in today.
Thanks for having me back.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk a little bit, Stacey. First, an introduction about business things at the library. Sometimes that surprises people to know that we have more than books, more than story times and engaging programs for the community, but we also have business programs and business resources.
We do, and we have a variety of resources that if you were trying to, as an individual, access them on your own, would cost you hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars. So if you're thinking about starting a business or looking to expand your existing business and need to do some market research, we have a number of online resources where you can use products like Demographics Now to size your potential market, to look at, compare and contrast two possible sites for a business. We've got Reference USA, so you can create client lists and look at where your clients live in a particular demographic area, or to learn about the potential customers that are around your shop. So lots and lots of really great things.
Yeah, those are powerful online resources and very business oriented. Some of those that you had mentioned are not your everyday type of resources that people always or even know about, let alone always use. So somebody who's into the business focus, perhaps starting their own business, thinking about being an entrepreneur, can learn a lot from the library and access those rather expensive resources.
And people are already paying for them with their tax dollars, so they should definitely come in and take advantage of them. And the beauty is, once you've got a library card with us, you don't even have to leave your house. You can do your market research after you've put the kids to bed or in the morning before you're trying to get everybody out of bed for school. They can just do it right at their computer and do that research and print it out and have it right there.
Yeah, that's great. And then you're just barely scratching the surface with some of the resources that we have.
It's true.
Yeah, it is true. And lots of things. And like I said, they're pretty sophisticated. So sometimes when you get in there and you go, oh, this is more than I thought it was going to be. And if you want a little help, we provide that for free too, right?
We do. Oh my gosh, what a nice lead in. Yes, we have a service we call Book a Librarian. So if someone wants to learn how to use a product, a resource, or they've had a refresher or an intro at one of our workshops, but they don't remember exactly how things work, we're happy to set up an appointment for 30 or 60 minutes to work one-on-one with an individual with whatever it is they're asking for. If they can't remember how to look at their potential competition in a geographic area, or maybe they want to do a direct mailer, but they can't remember how to set up the mailing list in Reference USA, we're happy to set that appointment up at any of our 11 locations throughout the county, and a time that works for the individual. We have evening hours everywhere. We've got Sunday hours at 7 of our locations, I believe. So we can be flexible with the person's schedule and what they need.
Great value for the community.
Definitely.
Like I said, just thinking about it and you want to know more, you can find out for free, and you can find out the real story that way too.
It's true.
Well, now, Stacey, you mentioned workshops, which
Yes.
leads us now to Rob. And first, let's talk about Rob. You've been here before, but in case somebody who's watching today or listening today didn't catch the program that you were on before, let's talk about you quickly first.
Sure.
You are a content strategist and cinematographer with Rogue Media, and you also work with SCORE as a mentor. Now, tell me a little bit about SCORE and a little bit about your role as a mentor there.
Yeah. SCORE was actually a resource that we used when we started our business. So actually I started in the mentee chair going to the workshops. And then as our business grew, 3-4 years into to business growth and things were going well, and we just felt like it was time to give back. And my wife is very outgoing and active in the community, and I was looking for a way to get plugged in. And I just found a lot of value in that mentorship. So SCORE became my outlet where I would go and mentor one-on-one. Our business has kind of grown again, so I've dialed back a little bit of my volunteer hours with SCORE. But I have continued to focus on the workshops. I think that's where I find the most enjoyment. There's a lot of energy in the room. It's great when you get a bunch of entrepreneurs and people kind of that early stage energy, sharing ideas, bouncing ideas off of each other. So it's been a great opportunity.
Super exciting. Well, that's awesome that you, I was not aware that you had started as a mentee. So you actually, you know, you were wearing those shoes, and then you've worked your way up, and now you turn around and give back. That's fabulous. And how long has Rogue Heart been in business?
We officially incorporated January 2011.
Wow.
So we just are starting our 8th year
8
now.
years.
Yeah.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
Congratulations
Thank
on
you.
that.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
It's wonderful to see these businesses grow and become successful as you have. So let's talk a little bit about the workshops that you're providing or SCORE is providing at the library. It's not necessarily you going to be teaching it. Some of them you are.
Yes.
And then some of them would be Josh King. Is that correct? Okay.
Yeah,
And we've had Josh on the program before too, so that's awesome. Well, let's talk about the first one that's coming up, and it's a repeat program, one that we've presented before, but that's great because people show up and they want us to bring it back again. This one is Simple Steps for Starting Your Business. What if I sign up? What would I learn in that workshop?
Really high-level overview. This is kind of people that are, you know, what we find a lot of the people that we mentor, they have a skill or something that they're passionate about, be it photography or, you know, there's something that they're passionate about. But the business idea, you know, they didn't go to school for business. They don't have an MBA.
Sure.
So what does that introduction look like to being able to manage their passion? What is the thing that they love doing? And if they're going to turn that into the business, what are some of the expectations? So we look at, you know, requirements for paying taxes and registering with Department of Revenue, Secretary of State, and just kind of some of the hoops you have to jump through, steps, processes, what does it take to be official, insurance requirements, things like that. So it's an hour long. It's a very high level overview of these are the things you need to know.
Oh, that's great.
Sharing a lot of other resources. SCORE's partnership with the library goes back before these workshops, you know, talking. Stacey mentioned some of the resources. We do talk about demographics now and some of that in there, just as far as doing your feasibility study and looking at, you know, market sizes and things like that. So just the opportunities that are available there. So again, it's just kind of an hour, but it's that high level overview of these are the things you need to be aware of.
Be aware of or get lined up. Yeah, because you're right. You come into this, oh, I love this. This is my passion. This is what I want to do. You know, if I do this, I'll never work another day in my life because I love everything I do. And then you find out, oh, you need insurance and a business license and this and this and this and
the bookkeeping and the all those things.
That's great. Great program. And we have one of those that particular workshop is coming up at Moran Prairie on Thursday, February 14th, 12:30 to 1:30. So it's a lunchtime thing. Bring a lunch if you'd like, and you can munch on it while you learn all these great things. The next workshop that we have coming up is a new one. This one's new. I believe we haven't done this at the library before. It's called Marketing, Advertising, and Sales, Connections and Differences. And marketing, advertising, and sales, it sounds like it's all one thing, but very much not, right? Okay. Tell me more about that one.
Yeah, I just think it's really important to discern the differences between some of those things, because one of the barriers we find with a lot of new business owners is that they're passionate about what they do, but sales requires a very specific DNA, a very specific skill set. And a lot of people think maybe they can't run their business because they're not very salesy. And just discerning, what marketing functions are, what advertising is, what sales looks like, identifying where their strengths are. Maybe their business doesn't require a strong, sales pitch.
Sure.
Leverage relationships and other strategic connections. So really just identifying kind of how those things relate and work together, but just defining what they are specifically, and then what that individual maybe needs a balance of those three as they're looking at creating their business.
That's great, because you want to be splashy when you start out. You want to get, you want everybody to know, so that they come to you and you can make some money, right? Or at least share your passion. And advertising, you can get kind of stuck onto something that could really bring you down if you don't know. Yeah, so that's great. Great. And that one is at Deer Park Library on Thursday, March 14th, 12:30 to 1:30. Yeah. Yes. I hope that one goes over well, and that one sounds like we'd like to bring it back.
Definitely.
If it goes over well, yes. Yeah. I'd like to see that. We have, Vinny's telling me 2 minutes, so we have 2 more to talk about with the workshops. Well, why don't we wait until after the break to come back and talk about those 2 workshops? Okay. But you had mentioned that you'd worked with the library for long before these workshops had begun going on. What first brought you into working with the library?
Just, is SCORE's volunteer base. We have maybe 20 active volunteers in Spokane. And there's only so much we can do in mentoring, and part of what we do is finding the strategic partners. So with SBA for funding, and the library is just the best resource partner we have locally for research. The
like
cost,
to hear that.
obviously, your library card gets you access to all kinds of wonderful resources. The librarians are great. Just to connect with a business librarian for the research that you guys are able to provide. So it was just a really natural fit. And then we were leading our own workshops, but just to get out at different locations. The workshops that SCORE provides are long. They're much more in depth.
Yeah.
Everything's at least 4 hours in length. And so just the opportunity to provide that 1 hour high-level overview, sometimes that 4-hour commitment downtown. A lot of people don't like coming downtown. It's nice to have access to other areas.
Well, it may not be that they don't like coming downtown, but it's not always the most convenient, especially if you live in Cheney or Deer Park and those more outlying places. So,
and in a 4-hour workshop, having to run out and feed the meter, there's challenges. Down there.
Yes, there are. So we're going to talk about the next 2 workshops. We're going to do that. We're going to take a quick break and come back and talk about those, more business resources and more about SCORE, and we'll be right back and do that on Library Out Loud.
Thanks.
They say it takes a community to raise a family. It also takes one to build a business. I came to Spokane 12 years ago as a Whitworth student, and I planned to leave after graduation. But the more I got to know this community, the more I wanted to become a part of it. My husband and I have built our business in Spokane, and now we're raising our family here too. We operate a consulting company that provides creative business development strategies. Our approach is holistic and dependent on intentional connections and relationships. And no one understands connections and relationships better than GSI. They direct momentum towards investments in our community, provide resources that help business leaders connect, and they're dedicated and passionate about making Spokane great. GSI gives me the confidence to build my business here because they believe every organization, even a small one like mine, adds big value to our community. With GSI's help, Spokane will be a place my son will want to build his career too. I'm Eva Marquette, owner of Freshview. We're creating something greater with Greater Spokane Incorporated.
Hi, this is Kurt Stockwell with Well Dressed Walrus. We are a local website design and development company here in Spokane. What we do is build beautiful, usable websites for local businesses. A website needs to be beautiful, it needs to be usable for your users, your customers, and yourself. Contact us anytime. We'd love to talk with you about your online marketing.
What? You haven't been to the library lately? Stop in today and see that the library is more than books. Spokane County Library District facilities feature on-site technology, including Wi-Fi, computers, and printers, as well as free use of meeting rooms. The Library District offers events and programs for all ages, from story times to career development and employer classes to Social Security workshops. Our staff is well trained and happy to help. Find out more about your library at scld.org.
And welcome back to Library Out Loud. I'm Jane Baker with the Spokane County Library District. And guests with me today are Stacey Goddard, a Public Services Manager, also with the Library District, and Rob Kennedy. Thank you, Rob, for being here. Rob's with Rogue Heart Media and also a mentor with the SCORE business programs. And we have 4 workshops coming up this winter/spring at our libraries. And we've talked about 2 of them, the simple steps for starting your business, and then a new one, marketing, advertising, and sales connections and differences. Both of those are coming up. Well, the first one is coming up on February 14th. What a great Valentine's Day. And then the second one would be on March 14th. So then there's 2 more coming up this spring. Let's talk about those. The one in April is called How to Write a Business Plan. And that sounds like the most awful thing that somebody would have to do. And I know it sounds... I didn't mean to be funny, but if you're excited and you want to get this business going, say it's photography or widgets or jewelry or whatever, and you're all excited. You want to get out there and people are encouraging you, and then you need to do all these paperwork and these license and the insurance and then a business plan. Why is it that when you have to write about something you love and are passionate about, it's so darn hard to write that business plan?
It can be. And one thing we actually present during this workshop, that there are a few different avenues now. So if you're looking for funding, you kind of have to stick a little bit to the traditional business plan model. But there are some newer evolutions of business plan. Business model canvas is one I'm a big fan of, and it's more of a visual component. It's just a little bit easier to digest content. It doesn't require writing big, long essays, but it's just kind of the bullet points of these are our strategic partners. This is, the supply chain. This is, how we're going to get in front of our audience. And it is pretty exciting to dive into some of that stuff.
Really?
It doesn't, if you're going after a lot of funding, maybe you need to write that big essay. The other thing I always advocate with a business plan, and I think anybody who's watching who's run a business and done one of these before has probably had a similar experience, but there have been a lot of business plans that I've written that I've stuck in the desk drawer, and I found them 2 years later and wiped the dust off and oh yeah, that was our plan. And we always advocate, what are you going to do to make this a living document? Are we just writing this in a Word document? Is there some sort of dashboard or tool that's going to live online? Setting calendar appointments to come back and hit that regularly. A lot of us, we go through the motions of writing a plan because we're told we need a plan. Yeah. And then we don't execute or actually function from that. So a part of it is creating the plan, but the other part of it is how is this actually going to be a functional, useful tool to us as a business owner. So
that sounds like a fascinating workshop because, again, I would think that you would write the business plan because you need the funding, because you need to submit it to the Small Business Association or whoever you're applying for funding from. So they're looking for that traditional one, but to talk about this, there is a more exciting, more visual one that you don't just stick it in the drawer, that you make it a point for it to be your roadmap. Is that our?
I think that's a great way to look at it.
Oh, great. Yeah. Well, that sounds like perhaps I should be at that one too, just to hear about the exciting things. Because, when I hear business plan, it's like, oh, no, I don't want to go through all that. But very interesting. Okay, so that one is coming up on Thursday, April 11th. Again, 12:30 to 1:30. Bring a sack lunch and take it during your lunch hour or even if it's not your lunch hour, it's only an hour long to come and get this information to maybe help you decide. And it will be at the Cheney Library on Thursday, April 11th, 12:30 to 1:30. And that's a repeat workshop, but a very popular one. Now I know why. And then our other new one coming up this spring is called Marketing Plans for Entrepreneurs. And first of all, how is that one different from a marketing plan for anybody else? You know, is there something different about an entrepreneur than somebody who just wants to start a business?
So, and this is Josh King's workshop.
Okay.
So I'm going to do my best to speak for
gotcha.
of where I believe he's going with that. But looking at the description, I think business plans, the traditional business plan, is great when you've been in business for 5 years and things are pretty solid and it's like, you know, we're going to keep growing in this direction. But when you're a startup and you're trying to identify your market, there are so many variables, so many things that change. And I think it's just a focus that is a little bit more nimble. We look at startups different than we do just running a typical small business. There's a startup stage where you're not quite mature yet. You're trying to figure out where your place is in the market.
Yeah.
And I think Josh talks about the planning aspect just from that nimble, agile place of, you know, being aware, being ready to pivot, not overcommitting, looking at feasibility studies and things like that. And I've tried to take the traditional business plan a little bit that direction too, but we still do look at the traditional business plans because we do have mentees that are going after funding and they still have to create that original kind of the more traditional business plan.
So, so that's marketing plans for entrepreneurs, and that's coming up at the Oregon Library on Thursday, May 9th. Again, the 12:30 to 1:30 lunchtime break. Marketing plans for entrepreneurs at the Oregon Library. So, it's very interesting to hear you talk about a startup. So a business person, even if you don't have the whole idea all the way together or know exactly who your market is, you could get involved in a startup program, and these workshops would help you figure that out?
Absolutely.
Okay. Is there ever a time where somebody with a business idea, ready to start a business, wanting to start a business, should skip that startup phase and go? I mean, do people come into this already knowing exactly who their business is, aside from franchises and things like that?
I think a little bit of it depends on industry.
Gotcha.
So if you come in as a photographer, you can look at other photographers and kind of know, okay, this is how a photography business is run. Some of the more entrepreneurial is if you're getting to an industry that's a little more niche, a little bit more new, maybe you're exploring something that hasn't been done before. So if you're kind of testing the waters, I guess, maybe not just a startup as an immature business, but kind of pushing the boundaries of an industry.
Yes.
That's where you need to pivot a little bit more. But if you're coming in as a photographer, you know, that's a long-standing industry. Of course, there's trends and things that change.
Sure.
You know, we could look at bakery and, you know, there's things that change over time, you know. So some industries are a little bit more stable where the traditional business plan, you can kind of, the roadmap maybe is laid out a little bit more for you.
Gotcha.
And I think Josh's is a little bit more of those emerging industries and how do we survive that when everything's so fluid.
If you're not sure, it would be worth it just to come to one of the programs. I mean, it costs you nothing except the hour of time, which sounds like it's beneficial either way, because we have 4 fabulous workshops here lined up, and they're only an hour long and they don't cost anything. But you would help somebody decide. Say I wanted to be a photographer and I had some new twist that I could sit down and listen to the workshop and ask questions and maybe figure out, oh, maybe I should be startup, or no, this isn't that new of a twist. And great.
Yeah,
great.
And even established businesses. I mean, sometimes some of what Josh is going to point towards that startup mentality is a larger business. You know, you can have 80% of your core work that is just operating, but maybe you want to stick a toe in the water over here and try, let's branch off and work in this direction. So even if it's a business that's been established for 5, 6, 7 years, if there's something that's going to change a little bit, one of the gentlemen at our last workshop was a property manager. But he was looking at creating some subsidiaries to manage some of the things that he was doing. So it might be even your business is established, but maybe you're trying to push a new direction to see if there's a viable area, kind of playing that 80-20 rule. You know, there's the core of what we do, but then how are we going to grow? What boundaries are we going to push and test? So
very exciting.
So yeah.
Yeah, exciting things. Do you hear great ideas for businesses in these workshops? And what is the most common question asked? I'm putting you on the spot. Sorry about that.
I mean, a lot of the questions we get really come back to just setting expectations for, okay, what does it look like to pay taxes? You know, coming back to the difference, one we get a lot is the difference between LLC and becoming incorporated. I mean, we just kind of, at least with the business
questions.
plan ones. Yeah. So those come up a lot. So really, yeah, people are just trying, because a lot of the folks that come to our workshops really are, they still have a full-time job. You know, this is starting as a side hustle. This is starting as something, you know, that's a dream that they're seeing if they can make it a reality. So it's really trying to identify, you know, what are the expectations moving forward. So that's a lot of different questions, but they're typically in that realm of what is life going to look like if I pursue this? What are potential roadblocks and things like that?
Oh, that's great. That's great. It's great to think you might be one of the points along somebody's journey in which they do the thing that they've always wanted to do. Yeah, that's fabulous. All right. So 4 workshops with the business focus coming up this spring, this winter and spring at the libraries. You can find out more about them in our Engage magazine. Pick one up. They're free at the libraries or online at scld.org, and you'll find out all the details. Thank you, Stacey, for being here. Thank you, Rob, for helping with these, for mentoring with SCORE, for helping with these workshops, and for being on the program here today.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. For Library Out Loud, I'm Jane Baker. We'll see you next time.
Library Out Loud is produced in Spokane, Washington by SpokaneTalksOnline.com, which is solely responsible for its content. Ask a question, recommend a guest, and hear this program again online anytime at SpokaneTalksOnline.com. Library Out Loud is brought to you by the Spokane County Library District and STCU. Go visit and explore your local library today.